All right, thank you, Chris, Carl, and Rob. It's number 19. Now we're in June. Very fast times. So we are going to first hear anything about SCA, just hear how it's going and how we can further the work on the ISSS side. And then we can talk about any other topics that people want to raise and about like how like what we can do in the coming weeks. So Rob, first where's SCA at?
So this is the SCA initiative that we started off at the beginning of the year. I see there's two streams to this. I delivered the uh, summaries of the content of the ISSS archives as far as I could ascertain at the beginning of the year, and handed it over to the ISSS for them to do with imaginative things with. So, uh, I can understand that. I'd be interested in an update in what the ISSS is doing with that. The other parallel avenue was for me to develop an SCA website for the wider systems community, not just ISSS. And I'm doing that with great enthusiasm at the moment. I've just been looking at adding contact forms and cloning the website if you want to get technical. But as part of that also, I've updated the data with the ISSS data with the latest webinars that have been going on. And also I'm going to be launching some new spreadsheets from other systems community interests. And so that's just a brief summary of where we are at the moment. Hopefully I will have some more news for you. I want to try and beta test the website as soon as possible and launch it. And I think it will add to, in part, what the ISSS's objectives for 2020, 2023 and beyond are. So that's a brief summary.
Awesome. Well, in terms of what we've been using it, I'm not aware of how things have gone beyond the version of the interface that was already built. Um, but we could discuss what we could do. We have the inventory across collections. Here's the original spreadsheet file just saved in there. Then there's the kinds of collections. And here's a more full list of the conferences, more full list of the General Systems Yearbook, more full list of the bulletin. And then that is just being pushed out to this archive site with those exact tables. That's basically where we're at with presenting the SCA information about ISSS. But we can explore other ways to improve that. What do people think?
Thank you. Thank you for that update. I think the coda is a representation of the data, is a sort of a proof of concept trial stage. And if other archivists out there from other organizations are interested in pursuing a coda representation, then if that's all right, I'll give them your name as a lead to discuss, where you've got to on that. The other proposal in my head is the possibility of feeding some of that archive material into a GPT corpus and then seeing something coming out of that. And there might be other people interested in something similar as well. I think quite a few people have suggested it'd be nice to have conversations with voices from the past through some sort of GPT interface. So I look forward to seeing all the different possible spin-outs or overlaps with other projects going on in the knowledge engineering and education corpuses, to see whether we can progress this as a community. Accessing all this valuable information and building on it.
Yes. For I'm gonna pull up one other so this I'll put in the chat too. So here you can just put in a YouTube URL. So here's the live stream from earlier today. This is the incorrect it's just a cached thing, but it's from earlier today. The transcript probably has not been generated yet, but I'll do one that I know exists. It makes the embedding database. This is a topic that wasn't discussed. It's not perfect, but I believe it shows like proof of concept and it with open source code about how easy it is. And there's also various like chat with PDF. So I mean, really, if we have the and we're working on this in the Institute. So I mean, if we have the full texts available, it is possible to chat with any given PDF.
Was that doing the transcribing of the YouTube or any video source, or is it expecting to be fed a transcript?
This one just takes in the URL and it utilizes the YouTube auto transcript. But in the pipeline that we're developing for the Active Inference Journal, we use Whisper AI first to make the transcript. Our pipeline there is like a little bit more multi-step, but it's much higher quality because basically we output a markdown from Whisper AI, and then we can manually curate and update it because it's not 100% accurate. But so we update the markdown as the single source of truth, and then we can translate that to different languages and train all the language models on the markdown representations. But that's for videos. But for chat with PDF type, this is already already being in the multiple weeks category. This
Right.
has long existed. So if we have PDFs of the full text, then there could be, for example, as simple as let's just say we had the full text for this document, for this record. There could be a button that would say chat with this document. And then it would just go to basically a pre-cached or even on-demand chat with PDF of that document. And it would just open up a new chat window with that document.
So it does some OCR on the document.
This one probably just does text extraction. I doubt that it would work well with a kind of like super old school like flat PDF. However, this is all like there's even non-OCR based GPT PDF dialogue, which is just using the image recognition directly as input. So, but having the text already extractable is much easier. And it's more available at this point. So are the PDFs in plain text, or are they in the kind of like photocopied format needing OCR?
I'm thinking of 1954, 50s, 60s, so they are poor quality scans, graphic scans of old documents, probably typewritten and not high quality. So
yeah, the first step would probably to make a better preparation probably would be OCRing them. But
well, you probably know, for poor quality. So like success rates of even 90-95% can be very difficult to read. So I think we'll probably try and concentrate on higher quality, more modern PDF documents with proper type fonts or even text already in place.
Yeah, I mean, a few angles on this. One would be focus on the ones that are already modern. Second would be it's highly possible that it's difficult to read. Let's just say that there's random, like, 80% of the I's are an L or a J. So like it's every word has a typo. It may be possible to still use chat with it because it just like you can have a typos in your prompt and it's not going to, it influences it, but it doesn't destroy the prompt. So that's possible. And then the other way, which might also relate to this like question of asynchronous contributions, what if the OCR were output to a markdown file in an ISSS repo, and then if people care, they can submit requests to update that markdown.
Yeah, yeah.
So then just make it like much more of a crowdsourced distributed improvement for people who want to manually improve it.
I've seen that in operations. So these links that you provided to the YouTuber AI and the chat PDF, are you involved with those, or are you just trialing them?
Nope, not involved with them, but we're using these kinds of tools for what we're building at the Institute.
Right.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I just see them as early prototypes too. But then again, if we have all of the PDFs, then these are already plausible to do.
Right.
And it's an interesting question also, if there was a PDF that we had that ISSS had access to have, but not to share, could people chat with it? That's a very interesting question. It's related to the question of whether it's of the copyright status of models that are trained on proprietary work. But I mean, so how can we proceed? Because these are ultimately like two of the major threads that we've been on recently, developing the ISSS archives and using language models.
Well, just as to the second, using the language models, there was a lot of interest and a lot of people interested in this subject after your talk. I was hoping, as we always do, that some volunteers would materialize to lead and get involved. So I don't know when or if that will happen, but that's the trajectory that seems most probable.
Yeah.
I'm here to see if I can help on that basis in part, but no. Like
awesome. What would you like to see it work towards, or what are exciting contributions that are things that you already can do?
Oh, I don't have skills yet, just ideas. So, but I'll ramble on in case it helps. The two key things I've been thinking is just surveyability, the idea of how can you go across the span of the archive and find, common voices, common threads, different voices on the same subject. There's a whole thing around surveyability, and in my mind, something perfectly surveyable, you should be able to get from one corner of the archive to any other corner by finding links, between it. And if you can't, that might be interesting in itself, because if there's a broken link, that means there's missing information, missing research, missing something. So think of one discipline of system sciences, there's a body of concepts and things that people are used to saying about it. how well can that be mapped to different disciplines and what's not mappable, sort of questions. But and towards that, because I work in a profession that doesn't consider itself a systems sciences profession, yet it is. And I think and just thinking about, this goes a little bit beyond this, but you think about system sciences, wanting to educate the world, help the world to do better. If, say, my actuarial profession could somehow map its concepts to system sciences concepts using this archive and the ChatGPT, infrastructure developed, I think that's really interesting. So you could make it easy for people to use more formal system sciences concepts because you got a way to find a common language. Don't know if that what I'm saying makes sense. I haven't tried to plan it, but I've been thinking these things. I think too. I'll say one more thing. The profession I'm in, they're doing something really rudimentary and just for key outputs from the last, making it up 5 years. They're getting volunteers to go and just tag it in some way, because you have experts who understand the material. They're tagging it in some way that's searchable. I think there could be a large language model attempt at that to provide simple summaries of all the different content. Maybe you've done that already, but then to start to look across even those summaries could do quite a lot towards my idea of surveyability, etc., and maybe lead to the next step. So I don't think you're going to get to the end except by small steps and with specific questions. I want to try to do this for this subset and just get on and do it. That's my ramble. Thanks.
Chris, can you just say what your profession is again? Did you say actuarial or something else?
So I'm an actuary.
Yeah.
So actuarial science, which is actually actuarial system science, but people don't think of it that way. Because we deal with messy problems, try to put it into logic and wing it, which I don't think is dissimilar to what many ISSS professionals, academics members do.
You're preaching to the converted. I think all professions are system science based and also heading towards. So you're preaching to the converted there.
Yeah. So if we can make ourselves surveyable to a degree, that would make it easier for others to make themselves surveyable with regards to us.
Yeah. Yep. Well, many aspects to this. Partly it's like a researchy question, which I think is all good. But if you feel like it's a novel contribution to the field, then there's probably a lot of research outputs there. But with the surveyability, like I'm thinking of the landscape and the tripod, and about how you have to, given the corrections, be able to, within every line of sight, have one coherent landscape map. So what does it mean for system science to be like internally surveyable and coherent? That's the archive question. And then interfacing out is about where do we get like the crossover zones or like the overlaps with other fields. The semantic space that system science encloses is going to be very large, because so many topics are dealt with, like what people call transdisciplinary. So it may turn out that that system science encloses other areas that just have a lot more detail. But looking for this surveyability concept from like the citation networks, that's not really a GPT approach. The formal knowledge model, also big work, not a GPT approach, but basically entering through the language such that you could take then some outputs of the profession X, and then in a chat with the ISSS overall model or some subset, you say, what does this remind you the most of? And so like then that profession specific prompt becomes the entry point into the systems landscape. And maybe that's a good starting place for a conversation with that kind of expert, because it'll be a direct response to their query slash phrasing.
I think if you're working with other system sciences groups, it's kind of the same question, although there's a lot more overlap. But I think too, it's not being too ambitious. So even the question itself is, I think I have a belief that often, if you find the right question, you've already found the answer. So the work is in finding the smart questions. So it may be that if we can help people within the ISSS come up with questions or know how to question things in a way that is empowering, that's sort of a technology, and that could be used then in this broader context too. I'm talking intuitively here, not with light knowledge, but usually my intuitions are not too terrible.
I would see the archive material as a huge resource of data, and the links that you've referred to are the unifying aspects that in one sense we're looking for from a general theory of systems, which would unite all of the system sciences and to be fair, all the bodies of knowledge and the approaches, including philosophy, spirituality, science, practicality, pragmatism, and so I see this archive as informing researchers and scientists and philosophers, and providing evidence-based approaches to all of those fields, and then applying it to all professions, because that's where I think one of the main benefits manifests is that we all are facing the same questions, and where have we come from, who are we, and where are we going, which applies to everything and every profession. So I think I'm along the same lines as yourself, Chris.
Yeah, and maybe even if we can think of a good question from our particular context, if the large language models could help us ask that question in a different language, meaning a different silo, say, that might be the Rosetta Stone.
I think those questions, or these same questions, have been asked and answered many times before, to a great depth of knowledge, in the past, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If we can find and survey the whole set of answers and come up with the best ones and the ones that are applicable in any particular situation, then this would be a great resource.
Carl posted this, so bibliometric analysis, keyword analysis. I mean, what's really exciting is that these analyses don't have to be, first off, there's the whole language and semantic analysis component that's now more accessible, not just the syntactic or the bibliometric. Second piece is this doesn't need to be like a one-time snapshot work. It can just be a real-time pipeline that's interactable. So instead of just snapshot descriptive statistics, it's unfolding generative systems. So, but a special output of them will reflect like prior work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this looks like a good in terms of like collections and the framework. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how can we proceed with it, do we have the full text to even start playing around for some ISSS resources on, like, what would it look like to have even one or a few resources interactable?
Well, do we have some questions from the educational side? So, or could we ask them to say, hey, give us some questions. We're ready to start finding answers, but we need some smart questions just to get our toe wet. Give some good questions that you think would be good to do, even.
So we can ask education for questions / return to this next week. We're gonna use these questions on a preliminary set of available documents. I mean, so just free floating questions about system science, or how?
Well, something that will help them is like I think purpose in my world, purpose matters. So there'd be questions for a purpose. So we will do better in our educational planning or creating this module because we can get access to this information better, or we can link these things better. So it would be things that would actually help education. But it might not be possible or practical, but so I've got a this isn't quite on point. My brother-in-law's visiting. He's a sociology professor at York, and he's grappling with Chat GPT, and he wants to come up with coursework that helps students go through using Chat GPT to understand how it works so that they can be better prepared to do use it as a tool rather than a cheat. So that's sort of an incestuous question, but it's an example of perhaps an educational question. You know, how can we come up with exercises that help people understand systems concepts? Say, might be an example of a question in the area of you know, something that they think is important.
Yeah.
And it'd be hard for us to think about how to get started in that, but presumably the large language models might give us some good ideas on how to tackle things like that. So that's a random example, possibly overly complicated.
Yeah, I think that's a very relevant learning curriculum. I mean, just so many are definitely like thinking of it as like to cheat or to prevent cheating, when I mean, institutions are going to be slow to pivot with some of these developments. It will just be unclear, happening at very different rates and all of this across different areas. So like, it's good that some people are taking initiative there. Okay, we can ask education for questions when we are meeting next week. If people, the most important, I mean, contributions can happen asynchronously. Anybody who wants to can have edit access to the interface, or I can just make a clone, like a test version, and people can just edit things and play with the OpenAI pack and just use it. Otherwise, what verbs or what tasks will help specify this better.
Yeah, I mean, these are simple coded functionality that, you know, we're not using.
Well, /learn helps, is one learning path. Also in education, like we've talked about, me making some summary videos, but I semi dragged my heels because I'm just doing it one really specific, really one way.
Yep.
And I think just by playing with a document or making your own document and playing with it, that is when people can figure it out. Like I'm not just, it's about what actually wants to. Yeah, I don't think there's any like, I don't have any like hot tips other than what I show in the work.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it might be worth to make some sort of summary to, we can of course use even a language model now to write a summary and re-invitation to people and just say, we're continuing to use this. We're for on the ISSS materials, if you want to re-engage in this phase.
Yeah, you could make a summary. You could allow people to comment on the summary. You could, obviously the summary would, the text behind the summary would be available to show interest or, you know, such and so forth. But I'll just have a go myself. I'll just have a go because I'm on this call. I'm a little more, I have a better concept of where all this stuff comes from rather than just see it there. I can look for it. Because partly I don't know how I have trouble myself navigating through all of this and knowing, okay, now that I've read this or I've seen this video, you know, now what? So I'll keep pursuing that, and I can always just send you an email.
Yep, that'd be and just help asking along the way. I mean, I don't know either. So just asking along the way and making our documentation. But I mean, even something like this to reconnect with the people who have expressed interest.
Yeah.
And looking for people who are like in the dawn of their moment with thinking about this and working on it. Who like actually want to ramp up their use and understanding rather than to just confirm what they have already understood. I think in that openness, it's like, this is one of the best opportunities to learn and apply.
Yeah. But in a way, getting started, you need a lot of boundaries because if it's just so much of an open state, you don't know where to go, you get lost. So say, you know,
like with what?
help. I don't know, just we need help here is a more helpful question than please help. And then someone can say, well, how come we're not, how come you're not asking for help here? But then you've they have that to compare to say, oh, well, actually something's missing. Rather than, oh, you know, help us. So, and that's where these questions have come out, or, you know, I think, you know.
Yeah, we need help using the ISSS archives. We need help using language models to survey and leverage the ISSS archives. We need help from curious. We need help. We need questions that people want to ask to knowledge management / systems.
I was just trying to I was just trying to find other ISSS initiatives around LLMs and GPTs. And I remember another stream was a call for interest for structured democratic dialogue around this. A chap called, I think, Yanis Laris.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that's got to, but that's one initiative that might be going on. I'll paste something into the chat that Peter Tuddenham sent round for an expression of interest. And so that's one thing. The other one is I wondered if anything's happening at the conference around GPT and LLMs.
Is anyone going to the conference?
I am not.
I'm going to be going.
Wow.
Yeah, can't wait. I'm also going because supper's called and I need to curate the wine.
Okay, let's see how.
Any last thing I can help with, or you'll have some peace without me.
We'll have a little bit of peace. You can review the final bit of the discussion, and then like definitely email me and we can continue the discussion.
Great, thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I think the part about making the educational materials to use it effectively is huge.
Can we get a brief update on the education stream? Last I heard, they were doing a survey. I haven't kept.
Oh yeah, sure. So,
and any other major initiatives?
Sure. Here's most recent education meeting. So the public interface for education has kind of gotten to, let's see how many, 10.
This is a survey, is it? That was sent out.
Yeah, the survey was sent out. We only pushed the survey one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's useful and interesting. If there was somebody who really wanted to maintain and develop, they could, but we haven't continued actively on it. But it's a good proof of concept. We're gonna move over these like documents to ISSS ownership instead of my personal ownership, which is better. Shingai is writing a newsletter, so partially centered around George Mobus's work. We started talking about like systems theories of AI, interestingly connecting back to the category theory, Robert Rosen and everything. And then like we were just like, I think George said it would be grand if ISSS members can tackle this question of like the synthesis. Like system science is the conviction that this can be integrated and synthesized into a theory. He encouraged people to go back to the sources themselves, not to the people or the personalities, because he and I as well basically think that has stymied efforts, or stymieing, insinuates it could have been different. So it's not even that. It's just like, that's why it's been interpersonal and talk rather than even the basic triage of the archives to build upon the past. So if ISSS is about educating the world about systems, then the education work is to actually implement that And so we're probably going to there may have been a few more pieces there, but I don't.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to. I mean, we're at the risk of obviously the education committee trying to do the hard synthesis work. That is what needs to be done. So just by preparing the stage and clarifying that we are pursuing system science in our own education, but also making shared representations, that's probably how we're going to be continuing and seeing who wants to do different aspects of that. Let's just, in our last minutes, let's just modify this letter and then send it to the knowledge engineering people. Just why not? Looks like we haven't emailed in 3 months. LLM learning layered models. It's like, come on. That's you. Macronym. Nice, Carl. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually Max Gale's site. He was Sergeant Wojo on Barney Miller. I've been friends with him for probably over 20 years now.
Lap.org. Good URL. I guess if it's LAP, you might as well run that acronym into the ground.
Yeah, working for the federal government with the USA.gov website, government acronyms.
Finest. Okay. Also link our previous. Any other thoughts on what we can write?
Is the ISSS archives open to the public, or is it behind the member wall?
This page is open. Anyone can comment. Okay, good. I mean, a few people. Oh, this is education. I mean, let's give it to everybody. Good luck with your presentation. What is it on?
Actually, the brain and look and platform called Elation. I don't know how
Okay.
if you know that, but so, yeah,
Cool.
got a run through for a presentation Tuesday. So okay,
Cool.
I'll see you next week then.
Farewell, Carl. Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers, Carl.
I'll just change this to say ISSS members and friends. BCC, everybody. Add the link to ISSS in case people forgot what we are. Any other thoughts? Good, Rob? All right.
Sorry.
Go.
Are you planning to meet on the next two knowledge engineering sessions, 15th of June and 29th of June?
Yes.
They wrap around the conference, which is taking place between the 17th and the 23rd.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I'll see if I'm available.
All right. Any last thoughts before we?
Keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thank you. Great times. I appreciate the SCA developments, and see who joins us next time. So
Yeah. We
thank
can
you,
build
Rob.
on that.
Farewell.
Okay. Thanks a lot,
Bye.
Daniel. Bye.